Welcome to the third episode of Italian Football Daily's podcast. Today, I'm joined by Matt Santangelo, Michael Timineri, and Alex Masidi. We were going to record 10-15 minutes ago, but apparently Mike had to watch Ray Donovan, so take that up with him. Guys, how are you doing today?
Oh, never better.
Pretty well. Yourself?
Pretty
How's everyone
good.
doing today?
Pretty good. Been a busy day, but we got to get right into it. A lot happened this week. We got the midweek games. And we got Conte finally picking up his first loss in England. So where do you guys want to start this week?
I want to start off with Mike watching Ray Donovan instead of Narcos. It's very disappointing all around.
I think that's
I've finished Narcos already, mate, so I'm moving on.
I think that's a podcast on its own. Maybe a little side project for IFD. Who knows?
IFD Netflix.
But actually, I wanted to start with Milan Sampdoria. First game of the weekend. Bacca comes on, scores the winning goal. What did you guys make of that game?
It was, for some odd reason, Milan always has this weird thing when they play Sampdoria. Even if they don't maybe bring it their best to the pitch, they somehow manage to find a result out of it. And I think this is exactly the case here on Friday. This game could have went either way. Of course, Donnarumma was fantastic for Milan once again. Bailed him out numerous times. There was Bacca, but who else? They got their controversy surrounding him and Montella a couple days before in training. And sure enough, he's one of the guys summoned from the bench that manages to save him and, of course, Milan the 3 points. So, I don't know. It looks like, 4 goals in 4 matches from the Colombian?
So,
he's off to a good start, for sure.
What did you make of Lapadula's performance, guys? He gets his first start in Serie A. I personally wasn't the biggest fan. He was doing some things right, but ultimately never really kicked on. And when Bacca came on, the difference between the two strikers was clear. I don't think Montella could afford the luxury of keeping Bacca on the bench, although it did serve as a good kick up the backside to the Colombian.
I'm not sure. My whole problem with the situation is that you're creating a divide early on between the coach and by far the best talented player in the outfield for Milan. For me, that causes a lot of problems, and if results continue to go south for the Rossoneri, it's going to really put pressure quickly on Montella. And after so many coaching changes we've seen over the past few years, I think losing Montella and losing the team early will just compound an already really deep problem for the club.
Yeah, no doubt there. I think that's a possibility, but the way considering Bacca's character, I think he reacted really well. And after the game, he said something like, I recall, obviously I always ask the manager to play, but I respect his decision. In my opinion, yes, it could have had that effect, but it looks like it didn't. Down the line, though, if he keeps Bacca on the bench, let's say 3-4 games from now, then I think he could set a divide in the room. But as of right now, I think it's fine, and his gamble paid off. And Sampdoria, I have to say, they did look pretty good under Marco Giampaolo in this one. It looked like they could have got a result, but ultimately, like Matt said, Milan find a way to squeak it through Sampdoria like usual.
Luis Muriel is worth a big look this season. I think he's going to be the breakout for Sampdoria this year, and as we saw against Milan, he almost did give them the winner. So at the end of the day, is a battle between two Colombians, and the Milanese won.
That's an interesting way to look at it after the Narcos reference, but
out of respect for the readers, I think I'm not going to continue that reference.
Yeah, it's okay. But Muriel, he did struggle in the past, but he does look a different player under Giampaolo this season. Just last week, he scored a phenomenal goal. Unlucky not to get on the score sheet, but Donnarumma once again, a phenomenal performance from him. I don't think it's ever going to stop. Like, you see a 17-year-old in net, and you're like, when is it going to end? It's not. He's a predestinato.
The next 2 decades are his. He could seriously be Italy's next goalkeeper until 2036. So I guess is incredible.
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but honestly, that's not a stretch at this point after watching him play week in, week out. Another result that went in the bigger team's way, Napoli beat Bologna. Napoli looked, after Reina's mistake, that they weren't going to get this done. Then comes on Milik, bags himself another brace. Napoli get the 3 points, and they're now the capolista. What do you guys make of Napoli's performance in this one?
I think Napoli, in particular, are very pleased with this weekend. Just all the results went 100% their way. The loser this weekend was Gabbiadini. I think that with Milik again coming off the bench and scoring 2 more goals was probably the final nail in the coffin as for giving any hope of Gabbiadini being the out-and-out starter this year.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just be clear about the whole situation with Gabbiadini, Milik, and Mertens. 2 of those 3 players are going to be on the bench given Napoli's situation or Napoli's formation. So it really puts Gabbiadini in the spot to where it's the absolute worst possible start after Higuain left. Milik comes in and is scoring everything, and Gabbiadini can't seem to find the net to save his life. So Napoli as a team are very thrilled, but Gabbiadini, in my opinion, has missed a major opportunity.
I have to say, I think I was reading a tweet from someone, and they said now that Higuain's gone, it is freeing up other Napoli players to perform better than they were in the past. And I think this couldn't be any truer for a player like Jose Callejon, who's now leading the goal-scoring charts with 5 goals to start the new season, and he's just on fire. He's dominating the right-hand flank, both defensively and offensively. And a number of players are really emerging for this Napoli side, and most notable Jorginho in the midfield. Or now you have the healthy competition on the left between Higuain, Insigne and Mertens, and now Milik, and you mentioned Gabbiadini. Whereas players have thrived, I think you hit the nail on the head, and Gabbiadini has not really played his best football. Today he acknowledged that he's going through a tough time and he's going to need their support more than ever. In Sarri's system, I don't see Gabbiadini thriving because he's just not an out-and-out striker. He needs to be complemented by another one. So I think it is a real tough time for Manolo. That being said, Milik is firing on all cylinders. Just a question for you guys. Over under 20 goals for Napoli's Polish hitman in Serie A.
I'm going to say under.
Okay.
I think and the reason I say this is because he's off to a very hot start. I will say that, but look where his goals have come from. I'm not knocking him by any means. I'm Polish myself, so I'm actually very impressed and very happy for him.
Yeah.
But he's scored 2 goals versus Milan, a pretty woeful defending team. With, of course, in that game they had Romagnoli and Gomez, who Gomez was making his debut for the club, if I'm correct. So a lot of his goals have come against weaker defending teams. That being said, I think he has the ability to make the adjustments when teams try to maybe lock him down. I think he will go through a rough spell at some point this year, which is where, again, of course, as you guys just previously mentioned, guys like Insigne, Mertens, Callejon, and maybe Gabbiadini could come back and really kind of pick him up if he hits a little bit of a wall. But I do think he will go under 20.
Yeah.
This year.
What about you, Alex?
Oh man, I had listened to all of that and I still haven't made up my mind. I'm gonna say under 20 goals would be absolutely phenomenal for him. Off to a great start. There's no discussion of that. I say he finishes the year with 17, 18, 19 goals in that ballpark. But 20, I think, is stretching it a bit. Yeah, he'll be right there in the ball. He'll be right in the ballpark. I mean, if barring a major injury, definitely. But there's a lot more. There's a lot more to Napoli's attack than that. Callejon may get 20 goals this year. Insigne may get 15, 20. You just don't know where the goals are. There's so many options and so many possibilities of where they can come from. I highly doubt we'll see one player get 20 from Napoli.
Mike, will Milik break the 20 mark?
No, I don't think so. I agree with Alex and Matt. I think it'll be under 20 goals for Milik. But like you said, the goals will be shared more across the trio of the attacking players. Insigne, Callejon, even Hamsik. Hamsik chips in with 10, 15 goals a season.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where it plays to Napoli's strength. Without Higuain, the goals are more spread across the pitch with the players. And yeah, I think it benefits Napoli going forward. Different options.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think he's going to get a respectable tally this season. I don't know if he breaks the 20 mark. If he does, it will be just over it. Defenses in Italy are bound to find them out, even ever so slightly. They're going to make adjustments when they play him. It's going to get tougher for him to score goals because right now he's that new addition, that new striker in the league, the flavor of the month per se. So teams don't know him, so it's easier for him to find space. I think he's very good, and he'll be able to create space even after they know who he is. But obviously it's going to be much harder. I think if he breaks it, he's going to be in the 20 to 22 mark. But he should, in my opinion, he's going to get around 15 to 18, anywhere in that region.
I don't think he'll get Higuain numbers.
Don't forget, guys, last year, we all saw Kalinic explode on the scene for Fiorentina, and then he hit a bit of a wall, and he kind of, he ended with a decent tally, but his numbers were front-loaded for sure, and you can really kind of see that. So the difference between, of course, Fiorentina, and which we'll probably get into them, and, of course, Napoli, is that Napoli have those options to pick up a guy when a guy is not otherwise in form.
Yeah.
As Mikey just mentioned, now, of course, you got the goals that are evenly dispersed, and now Napoli becomes a more well-rounded team where they're not so dependent on one individual like they maybe were at times last year with Higuain. He scored 36 goals.
Yeah, I fully agree there. I think now the goals are going to get balanced out throughout the team. And Napoli moving forward will be a better team because of this. There will be some growing pains, no doubt. But Napoli, especially under Sarri in his second season, they should be really fine in the attacking respect. But I'm glad you brought up Fiorentina. They're coming off a big win against Roma, 1-0. Milan Badel, linked to Milan all summer, scores the winner in this game. What did you guys make of La Viola's win?
I think it's a big step for them. This club has had minimal investment, and arguably out of the big teams, they have the worst market, the Mercato. They brought in nothing, and they sold Gomez and Rossi. They're almost stagnant in terms of building the team. They brought in a bunch of young players as well. I think yesterday was a big step forward for them because they show they can play against a big team, and they can suffer. We often hear about the coaches in Italy saying how their teams are able to suffer through periods of difficulty during a match. They're being dominated in possession. Well, Fiorentina yesterday didn't play the best. I think Roma was the better team, but they were still able to get all 3 points. Now, Milan Badeli at midfield has been scrapped down. I guess I'm looking for the word you could use. It's almost like they're rebuilding around a few players, but I thought Carlos Sanchez played well yesterday. It was a big step forward, but I'm cautiously optimistic with this team because we've seen there's no big player at Fiorentina anymore, in my opinion.
If they win their game in hand with Genoa, the one that was suspended, they'll be on 9 points from the first 4 games of the season, with their only loss coming against Juve on Matchday 1 of that 2-1 result. So I think the season they're having is being downplayed a bit. Also, obviously, it's still very early, but this is a side that hasn't conceded a goal in 3 games in all competitions. Paulo Sousa is continuing to do good work here, and Fiorentina might be there in the Champions League spots come the end of the season. Typically, they falter at the final hurdle. But if they make some investments in January, which I know it's a lot to ask for a Fiorentina side that hasn't been super active on the market, they could be right up there.
They definitely have great players. I think they have a lot of very talented prospects without getting too far off the topic at hand. But for this year and what I see with the team, I think it's a vastly stripped down version of the better teams they've had the past few years. Mm-hmm. But their start, without a doubt, has been great, especially if you discount the fact they lost only to Juventus on the road. Yeah. So there are a lot of positives from the Viola so far.
Yeah, no doubt there. Matt, did you happen to catch the game? And if you did, what did you make of Bernardeschi's performance? He hasn't had the best start to the season, but Viola's still getting the results.
And that's one reason why I think Fiorentina can still be a very good side this year, despite his early season struggles. Now he's going to be asked to pick up a little bit of the load here this season, because obviously expectations are for him to be not just a key man for Fiorentina, but for also potentially the Azzurri. So I think he's a guy who's definitely going to start picking it up. We saw him light it up last year with some very fantastic goals, and he's just such a technical player who can play anywhere Sousa needs him. If I'm a Fiorentina fan, I'm feeling pretty good about our chances this year, especially with the fact that Milan's struggling. They don't seem like they're going to be a top 3, top 4 club. and then you're seeing the teams like Torino struggling, who some people pegged as a potential Europa League team. So I think it's spread out, definitely open for Fiorentina to kind of creep in and, mingle around that 4 or 5 spot and still qualify for the Europa League, despite what many people think they can't do.
Yeah, I fully agree there. Mike, did you think Fiorentina were value for the 3 points this weekend, or will Roma be kicking themselves here?
I think you three are giving Fiorentina a lot of credit to them, and they don't deserve it. Just pick up those 1-0 wins. I don't know, Roma threw it away. Roma should have been 2-3-0 up before the hour mark. Salah, Dzeko missing lots of chances, and ultimately it cost them the game. But I don't see Fiorentina in that top 4, top 5 positions coming into the season. I just don't think they've got enough up front, out wide. Just think they're lucky at the moment, and it's boding them well with 6 points out of 9?
Yeah.
So,
Roma's got to be kicking themselves.
Maybe it's
Roma,
us just overhyping Roma's talent, because I've seen many people, touch upon their defense and their the goalkeeping and all these areas of Roma, and maybe it's the people itself and the fans that watch that have pegged Roma as this team that's a kind of a lock for the Champions League. I mean, maybe it's me, but Inter look like a stronger team, and we'll get into them, of course. But I think it's for this weekend's match from which Fiorentina found a way to get the win. I think it's more a testament to how perhaps overhyped, that Roma may be, rather than how impressive the win it was for Fiorentina.
Well, outside of the acquisition of Bruno Perez, I thought Roma's mercato in the defensive regard was extremely poor. They're signing average, good but not great defenders, like Juan Jesus, like Vermaelen, like Federico Fazio. If they wanted to take that next step in Europe, in the league, they needed to invest in players like someone like Manolas, who they have in defense. They need to get a player of his quality to join him. The current players they have won't do that. I think we saw it against Fiorentina. They looked a bit frail at the back. And we definitely saw it in Europe in midweek when they drew Victoria Pilsen. This Roma side aren't as good as we thought they were. And I think that they will have difficulty qualifying for the Champions League this year. I think they'll be right up there in the fight, but they may fall out of that third spot if Inter continues their surge.
I'll chime in on that. They rebuilt this team during the summer. There's so many new players, especially in the defense. It's going to take time for Spalletti to get it right. Let's also take into account, too, that you got several injuries in the back. Rudiger, Rui, and Vermaelen are all hurt. And, just to name off some new players that are, that he's having to integrate into the squad, you've got Alisson, Juan Jesus, Fazio, Rui, Bruno Perez, Vermaelen. It's almost a whole new defense. And I think it's asking a lot for Roma to come out here at the beginning and, be at 100%. I don't think they're there yet, but I'll still say confidently that this is a top 3 team.
Top 3. I think they're right.
I wouldn't say no.
I think they're either right inside the top 3 or they're right outside the top 3. They're somewhere in that zone of nothingness. They're not good enough to challenge for the title, but they're not bad enough that they'll slide into the 5th to 7th spots. So I think they're somewhere between there. And it all depends on what Spalletti decides to do with this team moving forward. Will he stick Dzeko up front, or will he play that false 9? Who's going to play in defense and who's going to play in midfield? There's more questions than answers right now surrounding Roma.
They just put this into perspective too before we move on, is that as bad as the situation may seem for Roma, they're already in 3rd place. They're to the first 4 matches. It's 7 points. Yeah. So I mean, we're not talking like a situation critical now. It's just that Spalletti is dealing with a situation where he has many, many new players and several injuries to deal with, and also including Europa League play, which isn't the most, illustrious competition. It's more of like a workman's competition. It's more strain on the team. So for Roma, I will maintain it to the end. Top 3 team in Italy.
Yeah. Okay. I think we all have a different opinion on that one, and that's totally fine because I'm sure the next game we're going to cover will divide some opinion. Inter beat Juve 2-1 in the Derby d'Italia. Mauro Icardi put in a great performance, but to me, this was more the contrast of managers. You have one in Frank de Boer getting it right with Inter's new identity, whereas Allegri got it wrong, sticking with the 3-5-2, a staple of this 5 consecutive titles Juve side. What did you guys make of this win? Will Inter finally kick on? Will Juve slide down the table? Or what's your biggest hot take surrounding this result?
I'll let Matt go first.
Well, here's the thing. It's both these clubs enter this game in a little bit of a different situation. Of course, Juve were playing Sevilla in the Champions League. They wound up, disappointingly for you, most Juve fans would agree with that, 0-0 with them. Whereas Inter were coming off a woeful 2-0 loss to an Israeli side, Hapoel Bira, if I'm saying it correct.
Yeah.
And it's a team that Inter should, even though they played most of their backups, they by no means have difficulty handling. So that was the interesting thing here. But I do really credit Inter here. They came out swinging and they really put on the pressure to Juve. Juve had their chances, and then De Boer even mentioned this. Juve had their chances, but so did Inter. And, of course, he felt that Inter deserved the 3 points, and sure enough, they did get the 3 points. So this is a testament to, I think, what type of quality Inter has, despite the adjustments that De Boer has to make kind of on the fly. I thought it was a statement win for Inter, to be honest with you, and it showed a little bit of a little minor concern for Juve. I'm not saying I'm going to write them off as the non-favorite to win Serie A, because I still think they are the clear-cut favorite. But it's a little bit of a concern, especially in the midfield when you lose Pogba and, you have some injuries and things kind of don't, look so good right now. So definitely a good win for Inter for sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot we could take from this match. I'm going to tell you this. Frank de Boer is a wonderful manager, world-class manager, in my opinion. They threw him into the lion's den by appointing him on the fortnight before the season started. So it's going to take him a small amount of time, at the very least, to get this team under control. Now, the whole situation with the Europa League, many of their players that they signed this summer, the big ones at least, were not on the Europa League roster because of FIFA financial fair play restrictions. So we're looking at players who can make a difference, like Banega, Yao Mario, Gabagol. They didn't play this week, against Hapoel. So you take those players out, Inter look a little more average, but this is the best Inter side that we've seen this year. In recent years, pardon me. So if you look at the two, yes, there's clear problems with Juventus at the moment. There's no creativity whatsoever from the midfield. You've replaced Paul Pogba with Kwadwo Asamoah, who had problems passing the ball to his teammate a few yards away. So there's a big problem. Marquisio's out, Sturato's out. Juve, without a doubt, will get it fixed. I think they're way too big, way too good to fail. Inter, on the other hand, will be fighting with Roma and Napoli for Champions League play. I think this is the best shot that they've had to get back into it.
Let me just jump in there. I think when you mentioned Napoli fighting for a Champions League spot, you got it wrong. I think this Napoli side are good enough to go all the way with Juve for the Scudetto. I think if Juve want to fix their current woes, there's one very simple solution, and that's to revert to the 4-3-2-1 system with Dybala and one of Marco Piazza and Cuadrado playing off of Higuain. Until Allegri does that, they will struggle to create anything of note, because without Marquinhos in the midfield, there's one of Mario Lemina and Kwadwo Asamoah will have to start every game until Marquinhos comes back. And as soon as they're in the lineup, there's a notable drop-off in quality, and especially in the final third. So by throwing in a talented player like Cuadrado, like Piazza, who in his super sub performances has looked phenomenal, and taking off one of the three center backs, I think Juve will be fine, and they will start fighting the back in that regularity. Whether Allegri does that, I don't know. I think he'll definitely do it in the Champions League, but in Serie A, he'll feel comfortable enough.
Well, who do you bench? Who do you bench out of Chiellini, Barzagli, and Bonucci?
I think you have to tell Barzagli to have a seat, even though he's probably a better defender than Chiellini right now, because Chiellini's contrasts Bonucci in a way that Barzagli doesn't and is a left foot. and when you play left center back, it never kills to have a lefty there, obviously. So I think as good as Barzagli is, it's time for you to tell him you'll play in Italy, but when it comes to Europe and our big games in Italy, we're going to have to go with a more creative, more attacking lineup just to fill up for the void that Paul Pogba has left in the midfield until they could replace him, which is likely the next transfer window.
That's a tall order to ask, but I agree. They needed to go for more.
You need a back four, and I couldn't be clearer in my mind.
Yeah, you need a back four. The problem is you're just telling one of the best defenders in Italy you're not going to be playing week in and week out in the bigger matches. So, yeah, they need a much more attacking mindset and lineup. And yes, you're absolutely right. Bringing on Piazza or Cuadrado, to accompany Dybala and Higuain, that's the answer. But it's a tough call. I don't know if a 4-2-3-1 formation would be the best
I don't
for
think
you,
that's. I never said 4-2-3-1 because Allegri has written his thesis on a three-man midfield and over his whole career never abandoned it. I think if it goes to back four, it's going to be a 4-3 something, like Allegri likes to call it. In an interview, he said, "Yeah, I don't know what the formation is. It's a 4-3 something." I think that's what it's going to have to be. And to tell one of Barzagli, Bonucci, and Chiellini, in my opinion, it should be Barzagli, to sit on the bench. I think they'll happily accommodate if the team wins. They've never been players to create a huge fuss over it. That's one of the strengths of this Juve team. And especially if it's only in Europe, I don't think they'll have a problem with it. And that's what Allegri gets paid to do. He gets paid the highest salary in Italy to make these tough calls.
Fair point.
Yeah. Moving on to football outside of Italy, I know that Mike won't be too happy with this. Antonio Conte's Chelsea fall 2-1 at the hands of Liverpool. Mike, what did you make of this result?
To say it was coming would be an understatement, but I don't know, it shows you lack of confidence in his own players in a way. And then just the way we started, and then to go in at halftime 2-0 down, it was just like the players just looked short of confidence. This is a team that had picked up 10 points from the opening 4 games. And all of a sudden, before the match, your manager doesn't seem confident. Matic, the way he was talking to the press before, some negative comments about playing Liverpool. Now, this is a Liverpool side which have not finished in Champions League places for a long time. And to start the game off, allowing Liverpool to play their football when you're the home side is baffling enough. And really, it was just a poor game throughout. Even though we did pull one back through Diego Costa, the whole match was just a shambles. Fabregas somehow can't get into this team. Marcos Alonso, I expected him to start the game because Ivanovic on that right side is a donkey. He's a liability every game. And I don't know, you spend 20-something million euros on him and he's on the bench.
I think that's very fair to see in respect to Ivanovic. And as a result, Willian struggles down the right because he has a fullback that doesn't support him.
Exactly. He hasn't got that overlap because Willian sometimes he cuts in a lot.
Yeah.
And with that, you need a fullback who's going to overlap. And Azpilicueta could do that if he was shifted to the right and Alonso from the left.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're just lacking. We're lacking that, that run, that second run beyond a Willian or a Hazard to open up the space for them to. And Costa's trying to do everything on his own at the moment.
But we know how tactically rigid Antonio Conte is in competitive matches. He will
think he's
not
just
move.
Extremely happy with a veteran presence that is Ivanovic, and we've seen him do this with Juve. We've seen him do it with Italy. I don't think he's going to let, unless barring a huge error or an injury, I think Ivanovic holds his role at right back as much as he really shouldn't.
Conte's not going to move. He's not going to change tactics. I'm telling you. He's going to stay with his signature, his system of play to the very end. That's what killed him. He lived by that and died with that at Juve.
Yeah.
And he just refused to shift on it. With Italy, during the friendlies, we got to see so well what it was like when he couldn't hold down a formation from game to game. But when he got it figured out and when he had his mindset, he did not move from it. And it's going to cost him in the Premier League from time to time. I think it's what happened with Liverpool.
I just thought it's a big game. Like how he handled Spain and Belgium at the Euros with that Italy side. I thought he would have got a bit more fire at the players. Tell them we shouldn't be underdogs in a game against Liverpool.
Yeah.
But
Maybe he likes that
played,
mentality.
I know, but the way we played, it was just we were
I
playing
saw the-
like a
Yeah,
Stoke City.
I saw the performance and I didn't like how deep Chelsea defended. I thought they could have pushed the
Yeah.
lineup higher. And when they went 2 down, they came out in the second half with some fire in their belly and they pushed up and they got a goal. So I think if they put pressure on that weak Liverpool defense from earlier, they would have got a result in this one. It was just on Conte, like I'll say.
What do you?
Well, we got
real
the goal
quick,
back, and he waited till the 83rd minute to make 3 changes.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was very.
That's
was
exactly him.
even more baffling in
But that's
itself.
typical
We need
Conte.
to score. We need to get that equaliser, maybe push on and get the third. Whilst Liverpool were sitting back and inviting the pressure, but I
Wait,
mean,
Mike,
he thought Victor Moses could save the day, not Batshuayi. So
wait, Mikey, real quick. I just want to just get your take on a certain player that made his second debut for the team, David Luiz. What do you make of his performance versus Liverpool and moving forward, and how Conte will utilize him in the back?
I thought David Luiz had a really good game. He was our best defender on the pitch, probably top 3 player on the pitch as well for the Chelsea. He just brings that. I know he's a bit, say, dodgy at the back in terms of his defending and when to play, but I think Conte in his week or 2 with him on the training pitch told him to maybe not to be too risky. He played a simple game, made the simple passes when he needed to, and with that extra pace at the back that we don't have with Gary Cahill or John Terry. Yeah, I mean, it helped us out a few times, especially with the pace of Coutinho, Sturridge, and Lallana bursting forward. And I think he's a good player, and with Conte, he can become a disciplined player with his training regime off the pitch.
Yeah, I agree there. With Conte now, gets his first defeat in England. We'll see how he reacts to that. In typical Conte fashion, I think Chelsea will roll their next few opponents easily.
Well, we need a good reaction. We've got Leicester City tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sorry, today. This podcast is being released on Tuesday in the Cup.
Yeah.
And we've got Arsenal on Saturday at the Emirates. So we need to bounce back. And the past would say we always beat Arsenal, let's be honest. But, I mean, we're the away team. We need to see how Conte gets his players fired up for the derby on Saturday.
I like the situation. I think this loss will fire up Chelsea even more to come out with get a good result against Arsenal.
He did not look happy in that press conference at the end of the game. He looked. I thought he was going to say some
I think that's
bad
fair.
words.
Speaking about a loss firing up a team, Juve take on Cagliari in midweek. Milan take on Lazio tomorrow. The podcast is being released on Tuesday, so I guess Milan take on Lazio today. For those who are hearing it, Genoa, Napoli, Inter, Empoli, Roma, Crotone. Let's go really quickly on these ones. Milan, Lazio. Your take, Matt. Go.
Of course, Milan are looking to string together their first win streak of the year, and under Montella, which would be a good thing for Milan to do, especially now as they hit a little bit of a rough patch. I mean, I think they are lacking with Antonelli back, injured, with the head injury, but they are getting Kuchka back, so that should help the midfield. We're hearing rumors that potentially Locatelli may slot in place of Montolivo, but again, we are not too sure about that because Montolivo is, whether we like to think he is or not, the captain of Milan. So this is going to be a tough one for Milan. Lazio have been playing pretty well, and I don't know. I think this is going to be another rough battle for Milan. Let's see what they can do.
I personally have Lazio prevailing in this one just because Montella right now, he, according to the probable lineups, he's going to blend in a nice mix of youth and experience. Yes, Montolivo's not playing, but I'm not sure if this younger team has what it takes to take on Lazio and beat them. Lazio have looked all right in their past few games. A bit Jekyll and Heidi, but nonetheless still a pretty good side. And they just beat Pescara 3-0 on the weekend. They're high on confidence. Ciro Immobile found the back of the net again against a dodgy backline in Milan. I think he'll probably score again. So personally, I think Lazio are going to win. Alex, Mike, predictions on this game?
2-0 Lazio. I think it's a major statement from Inzaghi's men.
Oh, okay. I have all.
Okay.
What about you, Mike?
I think it'll be a draw.
Okay.
I think both teams, 2 wins each.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a draw at the San Siro tomorrow. I'm hoping Montolivo gets benched. Like you say, Locatelli gets the game. Because I think with the decision to drop Bakar for the Sampdoria game and him I mean, coming off the bench to score, that could do wonders for Montalivo himself. He could just think to himself, whoa, I'm not guaranteed to place it. And I think that's what Montella was trying to do. By dropping, say, a guaranteed starter, I mean, it could fire up a player like Montalivo. So
if anybody needs to get fired up, it's Ricardo Montalivo, I'll tell you that.
Needs a kick up the backside.
Then Genoa take on Napoli. I think this has bogey potential for Napoli, but ultimately I think the Partenopei will overcome them, the Grifoni. Where do you guys stand on this one? It has the bogey potential about it.
I think that this is a big chance for Napoli to go to a tough place to win and get 3 points. I think Arek Milik scores again if he plays, which there's no reason he shouldn't play. And I'm very confident that Napoli can get the win. I just don't see Genoa putting up much of a fight. It could be such a big statement for Napoli to go and say we are legitimate Scudetto contenders to get a win at Genoa.
Yeah, Matt, Mike, predictions.
Genoa. I'm sorry. Genoa, Napoli. I'm going Napoli with a comfortable 2-0 win.
Okay.
And I'm gonna keep it short for you guys.
Mike,
Napoli win. That's the only result I see coming. Really on form. Insigne starting to play well. He had a really good game on Saturday, I felt.
Yeah.
So, I see a Napoli win. Like Alex said, make a big statement.
Okay.
I mean, stay at the top of the league.
I definitely see that potential. Will Juve react against Cagliari in the way we all think they will? I think Allegri is going to put out a highly offensive lineup against the Sardinian side, and I think ultimately the Bianconeri will have too much firepower for the newly promoted side, and they'll get the 3 points. Where do you guys stand on this game?
1-0 if he doesn't change. I think 1-0 win for Juventus if he doesn't make a change. If he does change, if Allegri takes to a more offensive-looking side, maybe 2-3-0. But if he decides to stay the course, I see them having a tough time breaking down a deep-lying side. Cagliari's going to play with 11 guys behind the ball or 10 guys behind the ball. It's going to be tough to break down.
Okay, that's fair. Where do you guys think this game's going to end up?
Juve's going to bounce back for sure.
Okay.
I see Juve making Allegri making the adjustments. Higuain should start, and I think will, and I think he will get back on the score sheet for Juve. I'm going to go 3-1 Juve.
Okay, Mike, Juve win, Cagliari win.
Boriola hat trick.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. I could see Higuain's going to start. I think he's going to start the game, so I think you'll see a couple goals from Higuain and a very convincing maybe win for Juventus, I guess.
Our last two games, Inter versus Empoli and Roma Crotone. Personally, I think Inter and Roma will win both their games easily. Given these two sides and their past, there's always that potential for a bust. But given their current form, given their current situation, I think they'll both come out with the 3 points. Do you guys see any upsets in these two games?
No, Crotone is absolutely awful. Serie B worthy. I think the Calabrese are going right back down.
Okay.
I think Inter is so buoyed by this win that they should sweep aside Empoli as well. So no upsets here. I'm not going to give a prediction for goals because we have no idea who they're going to field. They're both sides could change drastically, but I see multi-goal wins for them too.
Okay. And Mike?
Which match is that? Sorry.
Inter Empoli and Roma Crotone. We combine them together because I think there's going to be very similar results in both with the bigger sides prevailing.
I'm not sure about that. I said this to Matt yesterday. You could see Inter beating Juventus and then losing 3-0 to Empoli. That's the kind of
that's true.
That is very true because it's the kind of mentality Inter had last year. And, it might creep over into this team still.
That's what it is. They're like I mentioned, they could be very Jekyll and Hyde this side. They could
exactly
lost to Hapoel Beersheva, could lose to Empoli on the week.
Yeah, but I see Inter and Roma winning, but not ruling out a 3-0 Empoli win.
That would be something.
All or nothing.
Yep, for real. He's going all in. I think Ray Donovan influenced them to have that mentality. Just before we wrap off, we have a new segment. It's basically where the listeners, they send in some questions and we get to them quick before signing out.
Little viewer mail.
Yeah, pretty much. The first one is from Kevin Nolan. He said, "How do you boys think Pippo Inzaghi will do at Venezia? Big spenders in Lega Pro. They're currently top."
Serie B next year.
Yeah,
And then we'll, yeah, I think so. I think the other Inzaghi got off to a really rough start at Milan, but I think Venezia is a great piazza for him to rebound. And if they're spending big, they've refounded themselves, and Venezia is a very big city. So yeah, I think they're going to be back in Serie B next year, and who knows, we could be talking about a Serie A side in a few years' time.
I'd be very happy to see Inzaghi succeed at Venezia. I think he obviously got a bit of a rough shake at Milan. It was a very good decision for him to restart in the lower leagues, somewhere where Italian managers really earned their stripes in these divisions. So it comes to me as no surprise that he's doing good work at a Venezia side who have spent. Whether we'll see them in Serie B, I don't know, because the Lega Pro is a bit unpredictable. Like that's the beauty of the division. But I do agree with you. They're definitely favorites to come up. Matt, where do you see the former Milan manager finishing this season?
I agree with Alex. I think he's going to promote the side to Serie B. I mean, we saw it in spurts, and again, I mean very rare spurts with Milan, where we saw some things come out from Inzaghi. Yes, he finished, I believe, 10th with Milan, if I recall. It was a big stage for him. I think he wasn't ready for it, and he probably even admitted to you. Of course, not publicly, but I think this is, again, like Alex said, this is a good team for him to grow with as a manager and just build that bond and, of course, develop as a manager and then make that climb up gradually by staying on with them.
Yeah, I do. I think you hit all the key points with there. Definitely one to keep an eye on Lega Pro. Mikey, I know we'll have some strong feelings about this next question. It's from Adamo Ritaco. He says, Bernardeschi, Berardi, and Insigne all have. What is their potential impact on the Azzurri? And do you think they can convince Ventura to switch to a front three? So, Mike, take it away. This one's for you. I think this question was tailor-made for you.
Where's Immobile?
I know you have Immobile.
Oh, Balotelli.
I know you love our Italian wingers. So, do you think that it's going to be enough for Ventura to play that front three?
You can't play that front three.
Not
you
that
can play two out of the three, but you can't play all three of them. And I think if you're going to play a front three, it's got to be Berardi and Insigne.
Okay.
I think both players, creatively, they've got the goals and assists over the years. They're by far, some of Italy's best players. But they need a break. They need a chance. They need to play for Italy. They need that, There's a lack of confidence in the youngsters over the years. And just give them a chance. See what they can do. We've got 2 years to qualify for a World Cup. If they don't do well, go back to basics. Go to 3-5-2. Give them a chance. So, yeah, that's what I want to see. Berardi, Insigne out wide. Balotelli, if he wants to show up once in a while. And
that would be nice.
Yeah, that would be great. Score a hat-trick, do nothing for a month, come back again, score a hat-trick, penalties, whatever.
They're not gonna.
What about you guys? Do you think they're gonna play a front three with all this talent on the wing?
No way. There's absolutely no way that Ventura's gonna go that big of a shift. He's stuck with. He's been almost like a Conte. He's one of the most tactically.
He's a puppet.
He's one of the most tactically rigid coaches in all of Italy, and he said it day one.
Trying to accomplish what Conte did with a third of his personality. It's just not gonna work.
No, exactly. It falls under the category like El Shaarawy, and I think that Bernardeschi is in the same boat. They're not gonna they're not wingers. They're not gonna track back. There's many other players at Italy's disposal for that role, and they can't play as strikers. So they're kind of in this limbo of you're good enough to make it get called up, but you're not going to really play much of a role. So with Berardi, it would be absolutely, out of this world not to play him. But as for what I've seen from Bernardeschi so far, no, I don't think so. I just think that it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think if he wants to succeed with Italy, it's going to have to be with a 4-3-3. That said, I could definitely see him not stick with his 3-5-2, that rigid formation. And do well in the qualifiers, but win a World Cup, I don't think it's going to happen with the 3-5-2.
It's not going to happen.
No, it's too defensive. It really is. Italy's they played to their strengths under Conte, in a situation where that was the only card he had at his disposal was to play a 3-5-2.
Yeah.
If you want to begin incorporating new talent, you got to change it up. But that's a big shift.
Yeah.
But in 2016, Italy's strength is by far our attack.
And on the wings.
I know I see that defensively, but by far in attack we need to be going into games with these players.
I agree.
I think we all agree there. Hopefully Ventura sees eye to eye with us soon. He has to open up his our next question actually talks about one of these talented wingers. It's from Phil Inamorato. He asked, with a good performance on Saturday against Bologna, did Insigne earn his spot back from Mertens?
No, not yet. I think Mertens has just been, and virtually every game this year, he's been a factor for Napoli. He's getting chances to score. He's making things happen. I don't see him, Insigne, just getting his spot back immediately, despite the year he had last year. I think it's, of course, going to be Mertens, Milik, and Callejon leading the attack for Sarri for the next couple games, unless, of course, we start seeing Insigne really reclaim his form from last year.
My main thing with this is that Mertens is always so good coming off the bench in that super sub role, where Sarri could afford to start Insigne and then bring Mertens on for the last 30 minutes of games to change it. So in my books, I don't know if it's really it was ever Insigne's spot to lose or it was ever Mertens' spot to lose. They're just sort of in this rotation where both players are just as good as each other. Both players are effective in the final third, and both players will get time to do their thing. To me, it all depends in the coming weeks who's on form. That's how it's been for Sarri for these two players. Right now, Insigne did put in a great performance. His assist to Callejon, a real standout. So I think he'll start the next game. If he can maintain that force, sure, it's his spot to lose. If he can't, then Mertens comes right back.
I mean,
I agree with you.
If you're a Napoli fan, I mean, you can't be complaining about the situation you have. Mertens has been the 12th man for years now, and he can replace either Callejon or Insigne in the later stages of the game. So, I mean, you got so many options as to where if you start somebody or if you put him on as a super sub. For now, I mean, they're almost identical, but I would go with Insigne. He's the face of Napoli. He's 4 years younger than Mertens. I would start Insigne, yes.
Mike, Insigne or Mertens? Put yourself in Sarri's shoes. Who do you want?
Yeah, you made a great point about Mertens coming off the bench. Seems to, we got his 2 goals against Pescara off the bench. And I think some of his best performances come off the bench, if I'm honest. But I think what you see is you might see Mertens start maybe the Champions League games.
Okay.
And Insigne play Serie A. And obviously, if he's not playing well, Mertens comes off the bench, vice versa. Insigne coming off the bench to replace Mertens. And I think that's a great option for Napoli. The left side, that's where they do. I think for me, that's where they do most of their damage going forward. That left side, Gulam, Hamsik tends to drift to the left, and then Insigne or Mertens out wide. Best side in the league in terms of attacking. Yeah, it's a great option to have.
It's definitely a good problem. It's one of those that Sarri will have a headache from, but you won't mind. I mean, when you have 2 world-class players like that, why would you complain? Before we wrap off here, something special took place over at IFD with one of our writers. I'll let Matt take that away.
Yeah, so of course, you guys probably don't know yet, one of our own writers, Daniel Russo, he's a Napoli fan. He's actually chasing his dream in Europe. He's playing professionally in Germany, and this past weekend he made his debut and scored in a winning effort. So, again, we're all wishing Daniel the best, and of course, hopefully, maybe we can get him on post-match at one of his games. And,
or transfer rumors.
Get a little bit of word for him. Yeah, there you go. Maybe he could be IFT's first ever professional writer / soccer player.
How many sites have that? Come on, guys.
I mean, yeah, we're seriously unique. I mean, he has the chance to write up his own transfer rumor. I mean, Russo linked to Napoli. the exclusive inside story written by himself. I mean,
Imagine
come on.
him writing a player focus on himself.
But all kidding aside, we're wishing Daniel nothing but the best, and of course we maybe one day we'll be talking about him on our podcast right here and in one of our post-match reviews.
No doubts. Daniel, best of luck. Keep killing it out there. I have these pulling for you. And on that note, the podcast has come to an end. We reviewed this past week of Serie action. We previewed this current week's action, and we even got to some of your questions. We hope you enjoyed it. For Matt, Alex, Mike, and Greg, peace.
Ciao.